So, I recently got the latest issue of the AUSA magazine. It's the December 2017 issue, and I think they have a really great headline here. Loyalty could be overrated value. I think this is ironic due to the changes the entire military is making and their commitment to eschewing tradition and overall breaking down barriers and invariably bonds within the institution for the sake of change that they view as beneficial. It's a very corporate policy, and to propagate the idea that loyalty could be overrated is kind of in line with a corporate army, right? I noticed on the cover, not the cover, but right here, one page in, they had a picture, speaking of a contractor, they had a picture of this cool operator. He's got a shemag, a keffiyeh covering his face. I think that's pretty horrible. Keffiyeh covering his face. He's fully kitted out. He's aiming a rifle, finger on the trigger. He's got fingerless gloves, tactical ball cap, the whole 9 yards. It's what I would assume a civilian would paint a private military contractor as. Just this cool, murderous dude, ready to kill. And I look and I turn to the article it's referring to, and of course it's some old douchebag talking about how contracting's evil. And it's got some cool little emboldened parts saying base pay for an Army specialist is 21 grand. Pay range for a civilian truck driver is 80 grand. U.S. troops deployed in Afghanistan, 11,000. Contractors in Afghanistan, 25,000. Now the crux of his argument is that we pay contractors too much. War is costing too much. And we could get away with a lot more if we just use levies, right? We just use troops. So this Durbin piece of shit, right? He doesn't see any problem paying 20-year-olds 20 grand a year to get blown up, get shot at, to sacrifice years of their life slaving away in the Middle East for convoluted reasons attached to the global war on terror. So his argument is not parity with the comfort and pay the contractors receive. It's that people are just paid too much. Now, I want to remind everyone, Durbin most likely makes at least 6 figures. So, and we'll find out who the fuck this dude is. But he wants to make money, but he thinks that people who get blown up and who get shot at, be they contractor or military, should not make money. Fuck them, right? I'll read the article and we'll see how it goes. I haven't read it yet, but I can already tell it's shit. Contractors come at a high cost. The base pay for an Army specialist is $21,000. Civilian truck drivers working for a contractor can earn $80,000 to $100,000 annually. I haven't personally seen those rates in a while, but I'm going to trust that he knows more than me. It's Senator Dick Durbin. So, we could easily pull up. Senator 2017 pay. We could easily find out how much this fucking retard makes. So now that I know he's Democrat, not that it fucking matters, because people on both sides of the aisle don't think we should be paid shit. Oh, so $174,000 a year. He earns a shitload of money, but he thinks you earn too much. In a hostile fire zone, a war zone, you You earn too much. Yeah, it's $174,000 per year plus all the benefits you get being in the federal government. Let me remind you that civilian truck drivers who get money, the dream money right here, don't get benefits. Okay, he's getting $174,000 with benefits. That 80 grand, that's cash. You got to pay into your retirement. You got to pay into your fucking health insurance. You got to pay into everything. And if you deploy without the right health insurance overseas and you get wounded, you're gonna literally pay for that Black Hawk medevac. So it's not like something you can not get. You need to have the correct insurance. Um, so he hates you. This senator hates your fucking guts, right? And he will continue to rape the government for money while bitching about you making a little bit of change. Again, I wanna actually make some specific quotes here because saying 80 to 100,000 is fucking bullshit. Um, for high risk security in Helmand province, which is one of the most violent provinces in Afghanistan, last time I checked, I think you were looking at banking around 60,000. That's for an actual physsec job, not to drive a truck. Um, now, PSD or diplomatic security members make around 80 to 90,000 before taxes, and depending on how you're paid, you could be looking at paying up to 40% of that back. So it's not guaranteed that you're going to hit that time overseas threshold that allows you to claim some level of tax exemption. Regardless, that's 80 to 90,000 before taxes, before benefits are taken out. It's much less than that. And you can say, oh well, it's cost free. Your lodging and your meals are paid for. Okay, how many contractors have families at home that they still need to feed with that money? Still need to pay rent or a mortgage for it. It's never cost free. Never is. Senator Dick Durbin, his name's Dick, which is convenient, so I don't need to insult him too much. I can just say his name, Dick. Senator Dick recently pointed out that a DoD report emphasized that the average contract employee costs 2 to 3 times as much as the average DoD civilian employee for performing similar work, and that contract employees comprise 22% of the DoD's workforce but accounted for 50% of its cost. The average specialist in the Army is not going to have the 1 year of PSD experience, at least 1 year of combat experience, and at least 4 years of security or military experience required to do PSD for a vice president in Syria or Iraq. So go ahead, replace everyone on the diplomatic security side with fucking privates. See how that goes for you. Part of the benefits of contracting is being able to get a commercial over-the-counter product that's ready to go with the amount of experience and credentials you need right then and there. And that's why government's so addicted to contracting, is because they don't need to shape that force over many years. They can hire you right then and there. And it's part of the reason why there is remotely any premium with price is because of that. Is because you can hire experience, whereas your rank and file federal worker may or may not have that experience. Contractor use also comes at the cost of government control over operations. I I don't even know what they mean by that, because if you're in derogation of the contract, they could fire you right then and there. They could fine you millions of dollars. Each contract is meticulously written to the needs of the client. As many soldiers have found out over the past 15 years overseas, contractors are not soldiers. Oh my gosh, it's like the Hague Convention is a thing or something. I don't know. It's like we have international laws that state that contractors can't be soldiers. They do not have the same motivation as soldiers. I never got this strange dichotomy, this hypocrisy people have when talking about contracting. They do not have the same motivation as soldiers. Most people I've met who were physical security contractors, the ones getting blown up and shot at, were former soldiers. And they got into contracting because they felt like they would be treated better, and they wouldn't be treated like disposable pieces of shit and paid $20,000 a year to die in some godforsaken foreign land. They'd at least get some more money, maybe be a little more respected, at least from their company. So, no, I would wholeheartedly disagree with that. From my experience, most contractors I've met are soldiers, and they want to continue to serve, but they've been emotionally and mentally exhausted by the corruption of the institution, and so they went to the private sector to continue to serve, but to do so in a manner that protects their interests a little more. They are not subject to the same rules as soldiers. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They're subject to literally every rule a soldier is subject to, plus civilian rules. They are not a privileged combatant according to the Geneva Convention, which means they are subject to the UCMJ. They're subject to military law, international law, host nation law. They have more rules than soldiers, honestly. Contractor behavior can and has created embarrassment to the government. Contractor behavior at Abu Ghraib made a bad situation worse. Abu Ghraib was not operated by contractors alone, and I just can't. Abu Ghraib was not operated simply by contractors, and they were under the direct supervision of government workers. I'm not sure what more you want there, but historically speaking, we've used contractors as scapegoats time and time again, so not really surprised to read this rhetoric from Senator Dick. The Blackwater Security Company shootout at a Baghdad traffic circle in September 2007 enraged the U.S. and Iraqi public. He can't even fucking tell me the traffic circle. It's Nisour Square. The Nisour Square shooting is what you're trying to say, Dick. That's the shooting you're talking about. And if you read anything about it, it's not as clear cut as most people think it is. The security contractors didn't simply decide to murder a bunch of people that day. They were under attack and acted inappropriately, seemingly with less regard to collateral damage than they should have. But it was a far more complicated situation than bloodthirsty, murderous thugs who only care about money murdering civilians. So, I'm just amused that he can't even name any proper nouns in that incident. How many people were shot? So he's just throwing shit out there. He's throwing whatever sticks, you know. New problems for the Army have recently cropped up over the use of contractors. Contractor companies must work through the host government. The Associated Press reports that host government like Iraq have started demanding these companies instantly pay taxes. They are assessing these taxes at multiple checkpoints along a convoy's route. Hurdles like this at best will delay support for troops in the field. At worst, they will stop supporting from getting Stop support from getting to the units. The biggest. How is that the contractor's fault? If anything, that's a breakdown of ability to negotiate by Department of State. So, and if they're working with contractors, chances are they're not going to want you to replace all those civilians and soft skin vehicles with a bunch of Bearcats and military guys with M250 cals. They're not going to want that either, you know? And maybe, how about this? Stop being obsessed with small wars and hiding the small wars with contractors and special operations, and then maybe you won't need contractors so much. The biggest risk from contractors is dependability. Future scenarios look to be more deadly than Iraq or Afghanistan. The million-dollar question is if in the next war, like Fulda Gape, this is exactly what I talked about with the last time I read the AUSA magazine. This fucking dick is once again lost in his Cold War wet dreams, and he's having this disassociative break with reality where the Soviets are still alive and he's not some wrinkly old fuckbag who probably molests children, in my opinion. And he's once again obsessed with the idea of a Soviet invasion of Europe with a tank rush. It's not the 80s anymore, it's not the 70s. Once again, you're delusional, Or Korea Part 2 scenarios. This guy's a fucking idiot. And this is why he doesn't like contractors, because he's stuck in the fucking past. Will contractors be there, or will they refuse to move? Contractor sit-downs when things got tough have occurred before fighting in Iraq in 2004 became quite fierce. Okay? That was a very clumsily worded sentence. The Los Angeles Times reports that one day in April 2004, insurgents hit a KBR convoy just outside of Baghdad. There was a great deal of destruction. One person was killed and several people were captured or wounded. Halliburton, then owner of KBR, later suspended some convoys due to this escalating violence. Scores of KBR drivers left the country. Troops in the combat zone were forced to ration food and ammunition. There was no resupply coming from Kuwait because the convoy stopped. There wasn't anything the Army could do about the Halliburton action. Yeah, there's few problems with this. He's suggesting that there is no problem with the military strategy, which was highly politicized, to capture Baghdad as fast as possible, stretching their front as fast as possible, as long as possible, and bypassing combatant units and getting engaged from all sides with your convoys. So, but hey, we rushed to take Baghdad in record time. That was worth it, though. The lack of caution with Army strategy wasn't the problem. The problem lies with contractors not wanting to commit suicide. You should bathe the highway in your blood, because we're paying you $80,000, and in my day that could buy you 3 houses. No, that's bullshit. And this is why people like Dick don't like contractors, because while they want to continue to serve the country, they will also look out for their own interests. And that's one of the reasons I got out, is I was sick of being sucked dry by an institution that didn't give a shit about me, didn't care, and was completely thankless for the years of service I gave it. And people like Dick are threatened by the idea that their serfs, their levies, will grow up and eventually realize that they're worth something and eventually advocate for themselves. And Dick is afraid that when he orders 80,000 people or 100,000 people into the Fulda Gap to get slaughtered by Russian T-90 tanks, that some of them may refuse a suicidal order like that, because they're worth it, because their lives are actually worth more than Dick's here who makes $178,000 a year, or I'm sorry, $174,000 a year. He's afraid because he sees his own fragility. He sees the tenuous grasp on power he has. And he hates the idea of millennials realizing that they're worth something more than dying on a whim in Iraq. There wasn't anything the Army could do about the Halliburton action. The usual hammers to motivate contractors, like withholding payment, don't work in those cases. We're going to withhold payment from you if you don't go and die in a convoy that's not protected properly. But we're not going to give you automatic weapons or rocket launchers either, or CAS, because you're a contractor. Because fuck you. So we're going to withhold payment until you ritualistically commit Sudoku on the fucking highway in Iraq. What will contractors do in a war where the violence is even worse and where safe areas are non-existent? How about have a new convention on civilians in war and dispense some of the mystery around one of the most misunderstood industries in the country? How about give us more ability to defend ourselves, man? Why does the Army rely on contractors to fill gaps in the force structures? Parameters Journal on April 4th reported that in the 1990s, scores of logistical units were cut out of the structure. The fall of the Soviet Union gave everyone the idea that we wouldn't fight that kind of war anymore. The Soviet Union back in my day. See, the Soviet Union fell, but it's coming back. Just wait. I can't think. This is like young people and needing to reference Harry Potter for any sort of political situation there is. Old fucks like Dick have to reference the Soviet Union or the Cold War in some way, or else they can't wrap their heads around any situation ever. Everything has to come back to the Soviet Union because it's the only thing they understand. It's the only thing they know. And not understanding or not knowing frightens them. And they'd rather wallow in ignorance and pretend the Soviet Union is rising again instead of trying to learn. Future wars would be like peacekeeping scenarios like Bosnia. As a result, forced development, people stripped support units because under a Bosnia scenario there would never be a need for huge logistical capacity. Wow, Dick. So you're saying the Army tailors itself to contemporary needs. It's crazy. Bosnia showed the Pentagon that contractors could fill the gap. A contractor became the logistical force of choice. History shows that future conflicts won't look like past conflicts. The future is going to be different than the past. Wow. Again, I have powerful insight. I can only assume that Illinois elected you by mistake, or they thought it would be funny to have a dick in office because you sound like a fucking idiot. But current events with North Korea or Russia seem to paint a picture like something out of the old Cold War days. I can't wait, I'm so excited. Dick, you're projecting. Let me just break it down for you, Dick. You're projecting your disgusting, perverted hopes and dreams for ritualistic sacrifice of the future generation in a fucking pointless war so that you can retain your massive salary, make more off of insider trading, and overall be a leech to this country. Also, the Army is working with allies in Iraq and Syria to clear cities block by block. Each of these scenarios could lead to a high-intensity war, much like the old Fulda Gape scenarios. These scenarios would involve hundreds of thousands of people and hundreds of thousands of tons of supplies moving all over the battlefield. How long does this fucking article go? I think it still goes on for a little longer. Once again, he goes back to the Fulda Gape. He goes back to the Cold War fetish I think is what it. There needs to be like a syndrome or some sort of mental retardation to describe what Dick has. His unending obsession with the return of the glory days, where people would allow for what was it, the Un-American Activities Council or some shit that investigated people for the slightest of reasons. Wasn't that the same council or office that harassed MLK? I forget. Anyway, war zone operations iffy. There are a lot of recent war examples that cast doubt on the ability of contractors to operate in the war zone. Russia hybrid tactics in their war against Ukraine show how units can appear quickly in the rear. Russian hybrid tactics. You know, again, this is just more Cold War bullshit. You take something that's not at all, you know, new or exciting or unique, and you trademark it, you brand it something, and you attach it to whatever country you want to go to war with or you hate, right? There's nothing hybrid about what went on in Ukraine, but their branding idea is to create this new idea of war, and it's super evil, and the Russians are doing it. The Russians are behind everything, and it's you know, I'll give it to them. It's kind of smart because hybrid war is kind of like the new terrorism, in my opinion. It's formless, and it's a word with a lot of liquidity that the government can use to ascribe anything to a country they don't like. Oh man, someone shit posted about Trump on Twitter. Russian hybrid war. Oh, my Tesla caught fire. Russian hybrid war. Yeah. So, you know, it's aggressive branding, and it's propaganda. Well, you know, Smith-Mund Act was repealed, so it's legal for people to consume propaganda in the U.S. now. So, by me calling it propaganda, it's not me being insulting. I'm legitimately saying it's a propagandist technique to normalize or legitimize the idea that we should fight Russia. Russia or their allies exploded a secure ammo dump by drone. This is coming from the country that has been running multiple drone programs with little oversight for years, and we've droned everything under the sun. I don't even know like how this is alarming or surprising to Dick here, who has, I'm sure, some passing knowledge of our drone programs, where we will literally bomb anything. Um, the gall someone has to have to write this is impressive. It has been long known that the North Koreans have thousands of special forces troops whose mission is to spread. Is this fucking gonna end at some point? Okay. Is to spread chaos across the rear area. Recent history with IEDs and the vast proliferation of sophisticated weapons across the world almost guarantees that future deployments will bring a chaotic rear area with it. I love when this is mentioned. They talk about the proliferation of sophisticated weapons as if it's a force of nature and it's something that can't be stopped. And I think anyone who's remotely intelligent would know that we're one of the biggest weapons dealers in the world. I think we are the biggest weapons dealer. And that is strictly white market. That's not including gray market or black market. I know the previous administration had amended, I want to say, it was an EO. It was an executive order that amended our export laws so that we could continue to arm Syrian jihadists. Sorry, moderate rebels. So I just think it's ironic you'd compare it to, you'd imply that you have no control over the proliferation of weapons when your answer to a local civil war in Ukraine is to send javelins, a sophisticated anti-tank missile. And your answer to your Tinker Toy jihadists in Syria failing is to send sophisticated weapons. Your answer to fucking everything is to send sophisticated weapons everywhere. And then you're like, well, because of this thing that we caused, we need to do this. You caused it. You fucking caused this negative outcome. You're the reason why we have sophisticated weapons in the hands of fucking everyone. So I just think it's funny that your own actions are the rationale for further actions. Maybe we shouldn't trust you. Maybe we shouldn't listen to you. Because you're the reason why we're having this conversation to begin with. History shows a danger from ignoring logistical issues. The best example lies in the Israel-Hezbollah War of 2006. Israel invaded southern Lebanon to help liberate soldiers who were captured during a Hezbollah raid. Hezbollah countered the raid with a barrage of rockets into northern Israel. This event quickly grew to a 34-day war. This was a war Israel didn't think they would fight. Okay. Units were built to do police work on the West Bank, not to do the kinetic fight. Again, this is very clumsily worded. Large kinetic ground operations for Israel were supposed to be a thing of the past. This is fucking stupid. When Israel columns crossed the border, they immediately ran into small Hezbollah teams armed and trained with sophisticated weapons. Israel invaded Lebanon and had no idea any of this was happening. They invaded Lebanon and they were like, wow, why are you shooting at me? Wow. I don't know who the fuck would buy into this, honestly. As the Israeli forward columns advanced, they became cut off from follow-up logistical columns. These columns were reserve units that had barely trained together. Combat units quickly ran out of their basic load. Israel Brigade General Itzik Cohen said in Israel Defense magazine that we had sufficient inventories of food, water, and ammunition. The problem was that the items did not reach the forces that needed them. You know, this needs more foreign aid. We need to give Israel more money. Maneuvering means stress. Even with no change, I think all would agree that future conflicts would have battalions, brigades, and divisions maneuvering all around the battlefield. We're going to do division-level moves. Just sweep up the Russian tanks doing their hybrid warfare, because they have their tank HUD console. They're firing their main gun and they're posting on Facebook about who to elect next in the US. And with their other third hand, because they have really bad nuclear reactors in Russia, they're fucking hacking all of our local elections too. So we're just a sham of a democracy at that point. This uptick in tempo will put more stress on a contractor-heavy logistical system designed to service forward operating bases, not entire maneuvering divisions, just like I saw in my dream about the Fulda Gap. It won't get better with time, because it's the Fulda Gap. New toys of war always seem to take more coins to operate than the previous version. What a turn of phrase, dick. Forbes magazine in 2008 listed some impressive statistics to show this. In World War II, the armed forces used about a gallon of fuel per soldier every day. In Operation Desert Storm, fuel usage was about 4 gallons per soldier. By 2007, with operations in Iraq and Afghanistan, usage was up to 16 gallons, or $3 million worth of fuel a day. An Army armored division can use as much as 600,000 gallons of fuel a day. A tank, like the M1 Abrams, gets about 0.6 miles per gallon, and a cargo vehicle like the M1070 semi-trailer designed to haul tanks, gets approximately 1.2 miles per gallon. I think this is purposefully misleading. First of all, you have averaged out statistics, which I could produce whatever the fuck you want out of statistics like that, especially when your data sets are multiple different types of conflicts with multiple different types of technological gaps, with multiple different types of strategies being implemented, with fighting different types of enemies. So it's great that he was able to find data to support his dumbass argument. But anyone with a lick of sense would look at this and realize how shitty this was put together. So I think it's funny that he's like, well, a light infantry unit in World War II uses so little gas compared to a heavy armored unit in 2014. Oh my God, this is proof that contractors suck. Wow, man, logic is just resounding. Now is the time to do something. We know even without radical change, a Fulda Gape scenario anywhere versus the old Iraq-Afghanistan model will require more stuff to be put through the pipeline. Creaky on its best days, if nothing changes, something will break. What will the Army do if future technology like batteries to run laser weapons adds stress to the logistical pipeline? As I mentioned in the Dragoon video, we're adopting a new chain gun plus a shitload of ammunition. I don't think we're worried about stressing the logistical pipeline. Also, if you really gave a shit about stressing the logistical pipeline or the average consumption of soldiers nowadays, maybe you'd calm down with the patroning of the lobbyists from the military-industrial complex and quit adopting shit we don't need. But it's the contractor's fault, man. Raising new units, no matter the component, takes time. Just dropping these bombs of knowledge and wisdom, dick. Something must be done now before the U.S. Army faces a second baton. That's offensive, I think. That's kind of offensive, yeah. That's fucking stupid. So I guess the article was written by Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Maggie, USAR retired, is an emergency manager for the federal government in the military. He served in a variety of positions in military, police, transportation, and training units, and is a veteran of Operation Desert Storm and Iraqi Freedom. So he quotes Dick Durbin. Dick is still but so is Thomas Maggie. He's also I just want to point out this guy's a fucking pogue. So he's an MP pogue. So he spent probably a majority of his time in Iraqi Freedom ticketing people going too fast on a super fob. He's a piece of shit, doesn't know anything, doesn't know dick from his asshole. Dick the senator, not Dick the chode between his legs. And once again, it's just another fucking douchebag commenting about something he doesn't know anything about. I'm sure he's done a lot of kinetic operations. I like when people who've never served on a joint task force and done multiple raids a day say words like kinetic operations. I like that. And I like when they talk about the stress of logistical convoys and raids and shit. Now I'll offer some anecdotal evidence, excuse me, but I don't think this refutes Lieutenant Colonel Fuckface's or Dick Durbin's argument. But it's my experience, and it's kind of where I come from. I was in a forward deployed combat outpost at one point, and we didn't have contractors to rely on. Our supplies were coming from U.S. Army log packs. And the army did the same thing the contractors allegedly did in Iraq. They wouldn't come to us because they'd get ambushed. So they just flat out refused to deliver supplies to us. And while here it says they had to ration food and ammo, we had to ration everything because it was so difficult to get any military unit to deliver supplies to us. Now, I believe, honestly, that if Blackwater was tasked with getting us supplies, they would have fucking done the job. Because if you don't do the job, you don't get paid, right? Whereas in the military, if you don't do the job, you still get paid. You just maybe get yelled at. You know, and an executive officer in a unit I served in purposely starved a company of supplies. This is a different issue. But all that happened to him was he got a letter of reprimand. That's it. You know, he still got paid, still kept his job, still kept his rank. Now, if a contractor company purposely sabotaged operations like that, they would have been fired. They would have had a lawsuit. People potentially would have went to jail. So in some ways, there's more accountability with contractors than there are with the military, and that's part of the reason why so many people go to contracting. They're sick of carrying the weight of the corruption and the ineptitude within the traditional institution by themselves. And this antiquated attitude of Fulda Gap, Fulda Gap, Fulda Gap, Cold War, Cold War, Cold War, is part of the reason why you're driving so many bright young minds out of the military who are inundated with combat experience, forcing you to pay $80,000 a year to get some of that experience back. Quit treating people like shit, and people won't leave the military. It's pretty simple. But until you do that, you're going to continue to see a brain drain and experience drain. Again, anecdotal evidence doesn't really support anything. It's just something. Everyone I served with who was good at their jobs is out. They're gone. They've gotten out. And that's a lot of combat experience. So, it is a brain drain. It's a real brain drain. And the danger of antiquated thinking is real. And I think we've adopted an attitude of permissiveness that allows shit like this to be not just published but legitimized. And I think we're gonna really regret that at some point. Yeah, I think that about covers it. So I just wanted to emphasize that I've experienced everything he points out in here. That is a potential flaw of contracting. I've experienced being the same or worse with traditional DoD assets. So, I think he's just a piece of shit who got turned down for, a unicorn contract. He wanted to make $150,000 a year as an MP, doing a law enforcement contract in Kabul, Afghanistan, with the Afghan police. He got turned down, or he got fired from it. I don't know. He has an axe to grind with the industry, which is fine. But I think to promote disinformation or to be purposely misleading, which he was, intentional or not, I think needs to be called out. So I hope you enjoyed watching that.